My parents will be living with us now, so it would be ideal for you to relocate into a less expensive place as an outsider. That was how my marriage ended. My husband used me just while I imagined happiness. I was completely astonished that my in-laws had also betrayed me. I responded by getting ready right away and getting in touch with everyone who needed to know. Where did all the appliances and furnishings disappear to? I made arrangements for a company to pick them up. When I got in touch with the company the following day, the pickup was finished. My spouse was bewildered and unable to control his agitation. I'm Michelle Smith, and I'm 35 years old. I kept working from home when I graduated from college. I only go by car once a month. Although I work as a regular employee, the organization has shown great consideration for my circumstances. My legs are crippled on both ends, so even indoors I have to use a wheelchair. I was in college when I had a motorcycle accident that resulted in this condition. I took a blow to the back and found myself airborne. I still recall the feeling that everything seemed to be moving oddly slowly at the moment. While I was in the air, I quietly thought, this might be the end. I was lucky to escape with my life, but I lost the use of my legs. Even though my rehabilitation is still ongoing, it doesn't appear feasible that I will revert to my prior state. I have spent several years residing in a wheelchair. Maybe I'll be single for the rest of my life. The part of me that missed marriage started to wane as I accepted the state of my legs. My pals once organized a mixer for me. I met Ken, my current spouse, there. Even though Ken is 5 years older than I am, he seems much younger. He didn't seem to be 40 at all, which astonished me with how young he seemed in both his words and mannerisms. In other words, he's straightforward and sincere. He asked me a number of questions without hesitation and seemed quite indifferent to my wheelchair. How do you organize your meals? And cleaning? Are you able to get to the laundry? How about at work? Are you comfortable taking a solo bath and using the restroom? It was pleasant that Ken didn't hesitate while others did. I had never met someone with whom I could communicate so freely, so I was thrilled. I felt seen by Ken because of his sincere interest in me. We began dating formally after a few occasions, and I immediately felt that I might be happy with him. I felt like I would never meet another person who could be by my side at that moment, since Ken was all I could see. We had been dating for around 6 months when I got a proposal, which made me quite thrilled. However, not long after we were married, things took a significant turn for the worst. We lived in my single-family home when we first got married. Although the house is a little pricey to rent, the previous tenant made several renovations that make it comfortable and wheelchair accessible. Ken found the large house appealing. I took up much of the chores because I was home a lot. I would occasionally ask him for assistance when I wasn't feeling well, but he would always respond with, "I'm tired today," and offer no assistance. In addition, he declined to help with bathing. "No, I don't want to do that." Yes, I am capable of handling things on my own, but it takes a lot of effort. I had a caregiver come in twice a week while I lived alone to help with bathing, but other days I got by on my own. I can't help but feel like if Ken assisted, it would be easier, even if I'm used to it. Bath time always took a long time. Ken had told me that hiring an assistant was a waste of money, so I was doing away with it. One day when I was soaking in the tub, it occurred to me, my arms are tired. When selecting the property, this bathroom, which was initially designed for barrier-free access, was a key consideration. But Ken doesn't store the shampoo bottles or the wash bowl when he takes a bath first. It requires more work to pick them up. Can't you consider that I have to bathe by myself too? I just wanted to unwind with a bath and not worry about anything. Ken was unreceptive to my words. This home has been customized for you. You know that I moved here for you. Do you have an issue with that? He said. However, hadn't he also desired to reside here? Ken was pleased by the size of the house and the appliances when he first visited, particularly because I had made investments in furniture and electronics. He'd remarked, "I want to live here after we get married." He now bemoaned the handrails being in the way, saying it looked like a nursing home. I didn't know until we moved in together that Ken chose to marry me because I was home, had a reliable source of income, and was skilled around the house. It was a misconception that he was the ideal husband, as he was praised for marrying me despite my disabilities. I am independent despite my condition, but he depends on me in every way. He hasn't had a steady work since our relationship started, and he still leads a part-time lifestyle. I've frequently been moved to tears after coming to terms with this reality. Even though I don't feel totally loved by him, I persuaded myself that since he married me, he must still feel some kind of affection for me. Hey, can you give me some pocket money? I just gave you some, didn't I? Ken answered, I've already spent that. Ken was requesting more money from me, despite his unemployment, so I spoke with Ken's mother. Ken doesn't seem to be motivated to work. How should I proceed? He has been putting in a lot of effort at work. He's simply worn out. Give him some time to relax, my mother-in-law said. This was the same woman who had always encouraged me to talk to her about anything, but whenever I did, she would have none of it. Since Ken is her only child, perhaps there was nothing that could be done. But that response did not satisfy me. I have no other family left to rely on because my parents have already passed away. I was therefore engulfed in hopelessness. I considered asking friends for advice, but once I brought up a small grievance, I was informed. That's a luxurious problem to have. Ken looks really terrific on the outside. Ken ended up reprimanding me that night. What is this? Have you been chatting with my mother about unimportant things? Are you referring to the position? Yes, that. How come you would mention something that would worry the elderly? That's unbelievable. Then you should just work so you won't cause any worry. Ken stormed out of the house when I argued back. He flees when things don't go his way and returns, inebriated, late at night. It's me, I'm back, he said. It's already morning. Keep it down because it bothers the neighbors. Shut up. Don't talk back to me. When he's drunk, he becomes uncontrollable. In times like this, all I can do is stay silent and endure. I might have reached my limit, I started to think, but becoming lonely again is hard. I wondered whether I should continue to endure or live alone for the rest of my life. When divorce started to seem like a realistic option, Ken suddenly made a suggestion. How about we live together with my parents? What? You mean move back to your parents' place? No, my parents will come here. Ken spoke as if living together was the natural course of action, and he had decided they would move into our house without consulting me. Indeed, my in-laws are getting older, and I understand the desire to be near them, but both are still healthy and they have their own home, so it's unclear why they need to move here. Is it really necessary for them to live here? The house will be too small for 4 people, and I work from home, so it will cause problems. You always only think about yourself. I didn't realize you were such a cold person. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense for them to possibly move here when there's a perfectly good house already available. This place is bigger, has the latest facilities, and is convenient, right? Plus, it's barrier-free. If my in-laws come here, I'll need to be considerate while working. Ken is hardly ever home, so it's not a problem for him. But my in-laws, being pensioners, will likely spend a lot of time at home. Additionally, it takes longer for me to do tasks like using the toilet or bathing compared to others, so living with restraints would be a significant mental and physical burden. Please give me some time to think. There's no time to wait. Hurry up, Ken said. He claimed he couldn't wait, but without actually waiting, he brought his parents over for the weekend. It seemed that discussions about living together had been progressing in this household for some time. Hey, I've been thinking, what about you moving into a facility? Excuse me. I was shocked and couldn't believe what I heard. A facility, as in for me to move into. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. It must be hard doing various things by yourself, right? In a facility, they'll take care of everything for you. Apparently, he wasn't just thinking about living together, but also about kicking me out of the house. I'll come to check on you sometimes. I saw the reality clearly. If I don't confront this now, when will I? Honestly, what do you think of me? You're my wife, right? You're saying you'd send your wife to a facility. Hold on. When did I ever say I loved you? I felt my face getting hot. This man was just using me all along. I should have realized that long ago. The moment I realized it was time to put an end to everything, Ken uttered something unbelievable. Since this house will be lived in by my parents and me, you, an outsider, will be moving into a cheaper facility. What do you mean? When I looked to my in-laws for some form of rescue, they wore sarcastic smiles. Why are you laughing? Well, it's just funny. Sorry about that. They might have had their eyes on my house even before we got married. Clearly, the situation was moving rapidly, and I felt a strong need to get them out of the house. Please leave. What did you say? Please leave right now. Hey, why are you speaking to my parents like that? It seemed like I was seeing Ken's true colors. He was shouting at me with a face full of anger. If he cares so much about his parents, he should earn and build a house for them. Why try to take mine? Anger was boiling over in my head. Ken, calm down. She is just shocked by the sudden news. We just came for a preliminary look today. Yes, it's natural to check the house before moving in. It has become more livable than before with more appliances. They came with the serious intention of taking my house. I tried to take a deep breath to calm down. As I inhaled oxygen, suddenly a suspicion crossed my mind. How do they plan to make a living after I leave? My in-laws live on their pension, and Ken is employed on a non-regular basis. Currently, I pay for all the rent and daily expenses of this house. Who will pay the $2,000 living expenses? Do my in-laws think Ken earns enough for the rent and living expenses? Regardless of my concerns, my in-laws left the house contentedly. Ken also left with them. I'll be staying at my parents' house tonight. Wait, I want to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I, as the head of the household, have made my decision. My opinion won't change. I was left behind, stunned and bewildered, but I couldn't just sit still. Thinking I had to come up with a plan, I contacted an acquaintance who is a real estate agent. That night, Ken stayed at his parents' house and did not return. They were probably celebrating together. I quickly sorted my belongings into what I needed and what I didn't. When Ken returned home the next day and saw the organized luggage, he laughed. Oh, you've started sorting out your belongings already. Have you found a facility? Yes, that's right. My immediate response seemed to take Ken by surprise. Then I handed Ken a signed divorce form. Here, sign this. I've already signed it, so just fill in your part quickly. Divorce papers. Why are we getting divorced? Since you're trying to kick me out of the house, there's no point in continuing this marriage, is there? Ken looked utterly taken aback. Apparently, he hadn't anticipated a divorce proposal from me. No, you can't manage without me, can you? Huh? I can't understand that reasoning. Who else is going to marry you? Considering I'm your only option, if you divorce me, you'll likely be single for life. I can live on my own, but you wanted to get married, didn't you? Seeing Ken's perturbation, it became clear just how self-centered he was. He approached me, thinking of me as a lonely, single woman with a disability, someone vulnerable. I am independent, financially stable, and do not struggle with my lifestyle. Moreover, I can manage household tasks well since I spend a lot of time at home. For him, I was the ideal partner who could enable him to live freely without working. Without working, he would still have money coming in, praised by others for marrying me. He felt secure, thinking I had no other options and wouldn't leave him. But being presented with the divorce papers immediately must have surprised him. Why? If we get divorced, you might end up single for the rest of your life. Actually, I feel much better about being single than continuing to live a married life with you. Do you really intend to spend the end of your life alone, in solitude? He asked me, almost sneering. Whether I feel lonely or not is not for you to decide. That's not something someone else should comment on. When I, who had been submissive, retaliated with a strong tone, he was clearly shaken. Ken's unease was evident, as if a pigeon had been hit by a pea shooter, caught off guard by the sudden change. I hadn't realized until now how feeble he was. Why had I been so considerate and obedient to him? It was hard for me to understand myself. The moment I decided on divorce, it felt like a heavy burden was lifted from my heart, as if I had gained a new freedom. Perhaps I had always been trapped by the concept of marriage, only able to see myself within its confines. And I realized that, for the first time then, anyway, there's no need to rush out of this house so suddenly. I said, "You should go to a facility because I didn't think you'd act so quickly." He said, as if making excuses, "Don't worry, I'll do as you wish." "Now sign the divorce papers," I responded calmly. "I can't believe you'd find a new place to live so quickly. Wait, reconsider this." "No need to worry. I've already settled the contract with the facility." "What? Wait, isn't that too fast?" He couldn't hide his panic. Watching his sudden change of attitude, I observed him with a detached view. Sometimes he scoffed. At times he was frantic, behaving erratically. As I gradually regained my composure, his presence began to feel increasingly bothersome. "I've already arranged things with the facility. They're aware of my situation, so there's no need to worry." "Hey, when did you make such preparations?" "I had my suspicions, but have you planned this ahead?" "Yes, actually, even before I met you. In truth, I had my eye on a specific facility in anticipation of my old age. It looked like a condo complex. When I was injured, feeling uncertain about the future, I devoured investment books while hospitalized. As a result, I decided to start investing in stocks and real estate. I used my income and inheritance from my parents to diversify my investments. The facility I had been eyeing was actually already purchased by me and had been operated as a rental property for a long time, generating rental income. I had never mentioned any of this to Ken. It was my secret source of wealth. "We don't need a divorce." "I get it. You can stay here. Let's live together with my parents." "You really don't understand anything." As if I would ever agree to live together. He seemed completely oblivious. Even in the situation of offering a divorce, he still thought I had no other options but him. Unfortunately, I can't change what I've already decided. "What are you talking about? Always pushing your own agenda. If you're going to say that, then do as you please. Don't blame me when you regret it later." "Don't worry. I won't regret anything. Now hurry up and sign." Ken fell silent for a moment, seemingly deep in thought. As time passed, I busied myself with packing. Then I could hear Ken talking on the phone from a distance. Judging by his tone, he was likely consulting with his parents. The fact that he couldn't make his own decisions without relying on his parents filled me with contempt. Eventually, Ken returned to the room and suddenly approached me. "Fine, we'll divorce, but once you sign, leave this house immediately." He signed the divorce papers reluctantly. He probably felt the loss of having me, who had taken care of the household. However, maybe he thought that with his parents, he wouldn't need to worry about housework for the time being. Having acquired the house and all its furnishings and appliances, everything needed for living was already in place. He must have rationalized it that way. "Well, I'm going to discuss our future life with my parents. You get ready to move out quickly." He tossed the divorce papers at me and left for his parents' house again. "Understood. I'll do just that." My move was completed within a week. During that period, Ken did not show himself. A day after I finished moving, we met again when I was starting my new life in the new residence. Ken called me back to our previous home. "What's this? The house is empty. Where did all the appliances go?" "I had them all picked up by a service." "What do you mean?" "The day before, I had contacted a service to collect the furniture and appliances." Ken fell into a panic, unable to hide his turmoil. Not just Ken, but his parents were also there. "The appliances here were bought by me. I've been using most of them since before I was married. The only things that are yours are these. There were only 3 cardboard boxes left. Only the clear storage boxes that were purchased after the marriage were left behind. Wait, we can't live like this. Even though we're divorced, there needs to be a division of assets. That's right. We can't live like this. What are you talking about? It's impossible to live here now anyway. What do you mean? The rent for this place is $2,000. Ken and his parents were at a loss for words. Aside from his parents, I had clearly explained this to Ken when we got married. This house, it's not owned by you. That's right. I don't own it. This place was rented through a real estate agency run by an acquaintance who gave me a slight discount on the rent. I had informed him that if I were to leave, the rent would naturally increase. Being a barrier-free property, there were several inquiries from people in similar situations as mine. That's why I recommended moving out as the wisest choice. Why didn't you say that sooner? What are we supposed to do now? That's not my concern. I clearly explained it to Ken. I wasn't told. We'll sue. Their reaction was as expected. From the outside, it might look as if I suddenly demanded a divorce, relinquished the dwelling, and took away the furniture and appliances. However, I was confident in my position. You're free to sue, but do you have the funds for that? Ken's expression darkened. It was clear this man didn't have the financial means to hire a lawyer. Even if he somehow managed to hire one, I had a decisive advantage. In front of Ken and his in-laws, I presented several photographs. What are these from? The photos captured Ken indulging in gambling and nightlife. All of these were funded by me. I am prepared to fight with these, Ken. What is all this about? Everything was supposed to go smoothly. His parents were panicking abnormally. Then Ken suddenly started to prostrate himself in apology. I'm sorry. Please cancel the divorce and let's start over. I can't do it without you. You're the one who drove me out. The divorce is already final. You're the one who said you didn't love me, so all I'm doing is leaving. Then his in-laws also started prostrating themselves beside Ken. We have nowhere to live now. This situation was completely unexpected. What do you mean? Our house is going to be seized. A shocking fact was revealed. Ken's family home was in a situation where they had to vacate in a few weeks. They were actually bankrupt. The enormous debt accumulated by the father-in-law kept snowballing, and with just their pensions, repayment was impossible. I understood then why Ken, who used to receive an allowance from his parents during his bachelor days, considered marriage as a way out of this predicament. The reason why my mother-in-law was particularly kind before the marriage now made sense. Apologies now. Nothing changes. We don't know each other. Nothing that I can or will do will help you. Do you not give a damn if we become homeless? You are accountable for that. At the very least, could you provide us the appliances and furniture? You're not having financial difficulties, are you? Are you going to sell them? No. Haha. Their intention was clear. I was very clear that I was not going to give away any appliances or furnishings. Avoid making comments like that. Please find a way to assist us. Now is not the time to apologize. Take care of your own issues. We're asking for help because we can't solve them. I told them that they had to move if they couldn't pay the rent, despite their passionate appeals. The property was leased in my name, and it was simple to break the agreement and kick them out. More easily than anticipated, they were evicted. Ken, who was unemployed, could not possibly stay there, not even with a different name. The real estate agent attested to this. I can afford the rent. The decision to end this property lease was made in the end. My business is no longer there, and everything has come to an end with the divorce being completed. When I finally succeeded in evicting them and secured the door, I noticed their shock. What are we supposed to do now? I'm ready to move into the facility already. Farewell. Avoid making jokes. You won't have any freedom in that facility for sure, and it will be the worst. Give it your all in that awful setting. Ken finally left without even bothering to chuckle sarcastically at me. I disregarded his advice and moved on from Ken and his folks, but Ken would have none of it, and a few days later he paid me a visit at the facility I had moved into. What is this about? Ken was speechless when he saw the facility I had selected. The rumors of a horrible atmosphere were wildly overblown. This location is excellent. I selected a high-end facility that is estimated to be worth $700,000. Using the money I had generated through investments and the savings I had accumulated over the years, I purchased the facility. I was able to move in here when my previous tenant went out. My comfortable financial situation was further enhanced by the temporary income I received from selling some appliances. With doctors and assistants on hand at all times, the facility provides services that are worth the cost. Even for families, the roomy 3-room arrangement makes for a comfortable stay. As a result, a large number of families and couples live there. A system is in place to call for assistance whenever needed, and daily assisted bathing services are offered. I'm happy with my decision, even if my original plan was to use it to live out the last chapter of my life. I had no idea you were so wealthy until I moved here. So what if I was? Your presence here is an annoyance. Now that we're strangers, will you kindly go? At this point, Ken started acting cocky out of nowhere. Can't you let me live here, just me? What are you saying? That is not possible at all. We've separated. Recognize the truth. But let's remarry. In reality, I currently reside in an internet cafe. Sad, isn't that right? I am unable to acquire employment without an address. What a self-centered man, always prioritizing his own comfort. It appears that he also swiftly forsook his parents. He is completely egotistical. How about you look at yourself in the mirror? You appear to be in a bad mood right now. You're basically a homeless beggar now that you're a grown-up and still stealing money from your parents and live off your marriage like a parasite. Horrible. Ken's face flushed quickly. Aren't you embarrassed to be begging your ex-wife like this? Observe. Everyone is observing. The people on the balcony were staring at us. To be honest, I had requested for this ahead of time so that everyone could see how miserable my ex-husband was in case he came to visit. I had assumed Ken would ultimately come to me, either to offer support. I thought he would find me miserable in the facility or to ask for help. People in the community were quite supportive and purposefully gave Ken looks of sympathy. They nearly deserved to be praised for how touching and realistic their performance was. Ken appeared to recognize the despicable nature of his acts when he was surrounded by spectators' gaze. I won't ask any more. He turned pale and walked away, leaving those words behind. He shouldn't be able to return after this. My mother-in-law was working as a grocery cashier when I ran into her. My mother-in-law was presumably on register duty, and it looks like my father-in-law was cleaning. My mother-in-law quickly covered her face and steered clear of me when she saw me. A younger female coworker was reprimanding her for her actions. I've heard that Ken was given a job by someone he met at the internet cafe, where he works in a difficult setting for a pitiful salary. Personally, I like spending time with the individuals at the facility, so I regularly have house parties. I have a great community and have made friends with other wheelchair users. I regret not relocating here sooner. I lead a contented and comfortable life. I've also been able to commit time to my recovery after a long absence. Right now, I'm trying to get to the point where I can somewhat walk on my own. I'm content with my personal and professional lives as I spend my days.